indeed, welcome to this Thursday stream of Las Plumas de Simur. My name is Plumas and I am delighted to be here yet again in another live reading of the Shāh-nāmeh, the Book of Kings. How are you? Chetori, salam, nosotros. Thank you so much for your subscription. 35 months in a row, this person's been supporting me, not just here, but like in life as a general thing. Thank you so much, nosotros. Thank you for all your support. How are you? I'm very excited to be here continuing the reading of the Shāh-nāmeh. Apologies for last week, but you know, sometimes life. Hello, Slothinator. I really like your nickname, I'm not gonna lie. Umberto, I know it's you, and I take the liberty to call you by your name. But in all honesty, I think Slothinator is definitely much better. I think I need to turn up, yeah, sorry. I know I'm low. This should be better, but I was recording something yesterday for something very interesting. And I had to turn down my volume, but I think this should be better. How is it now? Is it loud? So happy. Always that every time I see you here, it just makes my heart jump a little bit. This should be better regarding the volume. And how are you? Better. Harder, better, faster, stronger. That was it. Thank you also to have a legally named change your Slothinator. Thank you. I know you would do that for me because you're a dear, aren't you? Okay, so as advanced on our Discord and as advanced on our Telegram channel, today we're going to continue with the reading of the Book of Kings. And you know what? I can't guarantee that this one is going to be a little bit more chill. Sort of. In the sense of we are not... We're going to experience yet once again Kai Kavus doing what he does best. His cabusadas, but it's not going to be as bumpy or as at least not as heartbreaking as for those that get us used to. But anyway, thank you so much to my patrons for being here, and thank you to all the people for the lovely support. It's been great, and it's been such a difficult summer for me. Nothing wrong is happening, nothing bad or terrible. It's just I am not finding the time to sit and stream as I would love to do. However, I am about to go on my summer break, which... Plumas, are you going on a holiday? Oh, actually, no, I am not going on a holiday. I am taking a summer break because I always do in August. But I'm still working, so you know, things to come. Anyway, we're gonna proceed to continue where we left, and I have to confess, as a very famous Spanish singer would say, that I started a wee bit later because I was looking for the exact part where I finished last time when I read in Spanish, because normally I try to read the same chunks and I didn't remember. So, but everything's good now. So last time we were all gathered here, I made you suffer and accompany me through the suffering of the episode of Lucía and his stepmother Shāh-nāmeh, and that was... Wow, that was a thing, wasn't it? So we're going to continue with the narrative arc of Shāh-nāmeh, and you know now how much we love this character, and I hope that you get so close to him as I feel him in my heart, because he has his special place. Yes, the fire trial, that was incredible. It's one of the most powerful episodes in the Shāh-nāmeh, under my very, very biased perspective. So now we're going to see what the future is bringing to Prince Shāh-nāmeh. And once again, I have no clue. Why am I laughing? Because I shouldn't, yet here we are. Humor is my pastor. Nothing can hurt me. I am, you know, el humor es mi pastor, nada me falta. Okay, so... You know that Kai Kavus was back to being madly, truly, deeply in love with Shāh-nāmeh. He had forgiven absolutely everything she did. It was just a mistake. You know, things happen. Sure. But then news came to the lovesick Kai Kavus that Afrasiab and 100,000 Turkish cavalry were menacing his borders. Beautiful. Do you remember Afrasiab, the one that I lovingly call the psychopath? He is the leader of the Turanian armies, and if you know or remember something about the Shāh-nāmeh, this is a very Manichaean story. The Iranians are the good guys and the Turanians are the bad guys, of course. So these Turanians are the antagonists and the main villains of the story. So Afrasiab is the leader of them. Sometimes they call him king. However, as a little bit discussed, what actually Afrasiab is, he's definitely a leader, he's definitely a chief of some sort, but it's not clear whether he is actually a king or not. So hello, locals. So we're getting to the part where it's the best turn to go into the fire. If only, that would have been so great. It would have been, you know, it made such a good other side of the story. I would have loved for her to go through a trial too. So now, because good things come to an end, Afrasiab, and allow me to repeat these, 100,000 Turanians are getting close very quickly to the Iranian borders and reluctant to give up his life of ease and pleasure, because of course, Kaikavos, you standing up from the chair you comfortably sitting in, come on. He summoned a council and addressed them thus: God did not make these Afrasiab of earth, air, fire and water as he did with other men. How often has he sworn peace with us, but as soon as he can gather an army together, he forgets all his oaths and promises. Fair, I mean, Kaikavos has a point in here. Afrasiab has a history of not really respecting this treatise of peace, definitely not. And Kaikavos continues, there is no one but myself who can confront him and turn his day to darkest night. If I don't eclipse his glory, he will attack Iran and lay waste our territories as swiftly as an arrow flies from the bowstring. So he's not really willing to, but in his head is starting to form this feeling that he must. Which, in all fairness, you are the king of kings after all, aren't you, Kaikavos? This is sort of your job. But don't mind me. Head on the counting on the ears of those at this time, definitely. Yeah, you know, we've talked about this many times, but I think it's worth repeating. When the Shāh-nāmeh gives numbers, it's not numbers to be taken realistically, because numbers have a poetic sense and a poetic dimension. 1,000 is a lot, and 100,000 is a much larger lot. They want you to feel these pressure that Kaikavos is also feeling, that a large army, a numerous formed army is coming towards them, towards the Iranians. So it's not exactly that they were 100,000 people counted, but that there is a massive menacing army coming to the borders. Same where when they, you know, they list gifts that they give to the royal princess or to the embassies, and they state that there were thousands of gold coins and 100,000 meters of fabric. You know, it's always a poetic way of expressing that there is abundance and wealth, and in this case, an abundance of, you know, a threat. Yeah, definitely, if Afrasiab is anything in this planet, it is a threat, and it's something to be taken, you know, to take with caution. The advisors of Kaikavos said to him, your army is sufficient without your presence. Why waste wealth recklessly? Don't go, basically. Maybe they should have said millions. You know what? I can't recall a moment in the Shāh-nāmeh where they address millions, they specify millions. If we find it, I will make sure to note it, but I don't think we have found that one yet. I don't know, I'll keep an eye on that. See, the advisors were saying, twice already, your rashness. These people are harsh, but they're just. They say twice already, your rashness has delivered the kingdom into your enemy's hands. Exactly. Choose some warrior worthy of war to carry out this task for you. So it's not that the advisors don't want Kaikavos to do it, but they want Kaikavos to do it. Why? Because as they state, they have a history and they learned their lesson that Kaikavos is not really someone to be trusted in certain matters. And I really like this part. They are completely done with this. So they are way past the point of politeness, and they just say straightforwardly what they're thinking. Yet Kaikavos is a little bit reluctant. And he says, but I see no one here who can confront Afrasiab. No, it's my boat that must be launched from this undertaking. Now leave me and let me prepare my heart for what's to come. Hearing this, because now Siavash is a crown prince, meaning that he attends these councils and he's present when these decisions are made, Siavash grew pensive and thoughts crowded his mind like a dense thicket. To himself, he said, I should be the one fighting this war, and I must persuade Kaikavos to give command of our armies to me. In this way, God will free me both from Shāh-nāmeh and my father's suspicions. And besides, if I can overcome such a force, I shall win fame for myself. I think it's terrible, terrifying, and upsetting that the way Siavash has the fastest way for Siavash to get rid of his evil stepmother, lusty and evil stepmother, is just to go to war. That is his alternative. That's his alternative. It's terrible, yeah. Hey, he has better advising than modern governments do. Yes. True. So Siavash strode forward, his sword belt buckled on, and said, I am capable of fighting with the king of Turan, and I shall humble his heroes' heads in the dust. His father agreed to his request and made much of him. Of course, he's super proud, loading him with new honors and giving him treasure with which to equip the army. Kaikavos is beyond excited that, Siavash is performing this. On the one hand, because it is such a good fame for a prince, Siavash is also very conscious that he still hasn't gotten any major conquests on his behalf. He hasn't accumulated any fame of any sort just yet. As you see, war is important for these people. But also, this means that Kaikavos doesn't have to leave his palace and he can stay in the comforts of his royal life, so everyone wins. Win-win situation. So Kaikavos summoned then, however, he summoned Rostam and said to him, no mammoth has your strength, and you showed your unparalleled wisdom and discretion when you raised Siavash. This is very important, but we should not forget that it was Rostam, the one who brought up Siavash. He was in charge of his education and he taught him everything Rostam knew. All the knowledge was transmitted from Rostam to the little prince. And I emphasized this the last time, but I would do so again. Be aware of the very strong bond between Siavash and Rostam. It is very important it is very important. It is crucial for this. So Kaikavos continues, now he's come to me, meaning Siavash, his sword belt buckled on, talking as if he were a young lion. He wants to lead the expedition against Afrasiab. You are to accompany him and see you never take your eyes off him. If you are watchful, I can sleep easily, but if you relax your vigilance, then I must bestir myself. The world rests safely because of your sword, and the moon in its sphere is yours to command. And this is beautiful, what Rostam replies. He says, I am your slave, obedient to you. Whatever you command me, I shall do. My refuge is Prince Siavash, and where his crown is, heaven too, for me, is there. That is beautiful. I'm gonna read this again. My refuge is Prince Siavash, and where his crown is, heaven too, for me, is there. How beautifully does Rostam explain his feelings towards the young boy? I think it's so emotive and just I really like this because yes, I know I am the first one to criticize Rostam because he's a brute and he doesn't think twice of the times he's on Earth. But, fair is fair, and he has his feelings too. Like, you know, Rostam has a very passionate personality, and whatever he feels in a very strong, intense way. So definitely, I really like this sentence. What is that, Umberto? I'm guessing in the Persian, mammoth strength has less of an animalistic connotation. In fact, I am not sure what the original word would be for this, because when they say mammoth, possibly they're meaning larger elephant. That one possibility is that we don't know of this species anymore because it became extinct, but definitely the elephant has a key pivotal place in the poetic Persianate world because of its size, because of its strength, because of its royal connotation. So yeah, when they say mammoth, I don't know if they refer to like a proper mammoth, but to a very large grown adult elephant, meaning that they're very, very strong. It's just a pure, it's a metaphor for pure strength, as in physical strength. For Rostam today at least. You know what? We're gonna toast to Rostam today at least. Cheers. Absolutely. And although so, you, of course, heartened by Rostam's words, Qaboos replied, "May wisdom be your spirit's constant guide." And I want to unpack a few things of this, okay? I know, I'm very much aware that we cannot judge the Shāh-nāmeh from today's reading perspective. But I am a today's woman and I am a today's person, so I have my perspective. Number one, I don't know how Rostam is still on speaking terms with Qaboos, because let us remember and never forget that Qaboos had the opportunity to save Sohrab's life and he refused to do so, fearing that Rostam would overcome him, just threw him off the throne. Let us not forget that, because that's the kind of person that Qaboos is. That is number one. And number two, the destiny of the world, the fate of the entire Iranian kingdom is yet again on the shoulders of Rostam. Again. So it's a pattern. When something repeats a numerous amount of times, it becomes a pattern, and this is leading to disaster, because we've seen it before. We've seen it, how Qaboos has entrusted the entire fate, destiny of the land to Rostam, and although Rostam has done his best, because God knows he has, the situation has always backfired, and I don't want to be agorera, I don't want to be, fatalistic, but this is not heading to a good harbor, as we say in Spanish. Says nosotros, Qaboos' advice is go and don't do anything that I should do. You know what? He is a selfish person. Oh, you go, you take care of my heir to the throne and my oldest child. If you do your work properly, I should rest and be assured. However, if you do your work poorly, I'm gonna be so upset. What about you perform as a king, as a general, as a soldier, as a father? Has that thought even crossed your mind, Qaboos? I need a minute. Am I explaining myself properly? Did you follow what I want to transmit? Am I succeeding? Because it's just, oh my god, I don't know if I would ever get to read the characters from the Shāh-nāmeh, but definitely Qaboos would be so roasted. Like, it's just, oh. No. But, of course, the army marches to war. Preceded by the Dean of Drums and kettle drums, the proud commander Tuz, who, by the way, he has become our favorite NPC. Can we just recap, do rewind, and list all the calamities that have fell upon Tuz? He's still around. I think he's earned the category of being everyone's favorite NPC. At least is mine. So tools appeared at court, and the king flung open his treasury doors to equip the assembled warriors. Helmets, maces, sword belts, armor, lances, and shields were distributed, and the king sent the key to the treasury where uncut cloth and other wealth was stored to Shāh-nāmeh, saying that he was to administer it as he saw fit. He chose 12,000 cavalry, men from Pars, Kuch, Baluch, Gilan, and the plain of Saruk, and 12,000 infantry. For leaders, he chose men like Bahram and Zangeh. They're listing heroes. Yet again, it's not that they're not important, but I know the Shāh-nāmeh has its fair share of strange names and not so common named characters, so I don't want you to get lost in them. So they summon a series of heroes, descendants of characters we knew from before, important people, noblemen. Then Shāh-nāmeh gave orders that they assemble on the plain outside the palace, and so crowded did the area become, it seemed there wasn't room for one more horseshoe. Before the host of the Kabyani banner floated like a glittering moon, Qaboos came out, quickly inspected the troops, and addressed them. May fortune favor you. May all who fight against you be deprived of sense and sight. As you set out, may health and luck be yours. May you return as happy conquerors. He's doing something. I'm sorry. I am biased, but you know what? I've said this a million times. My stream, my Book of Kings, my preferences. The same that I was praising Zahak and Fereydun constantly. Every time they did something, it took Fereydun one breath for me to be clapping maniacally. Everything that men do was just correct. Not this one. Ah, Fereydun, I miss you so much. If you could only see what has become of Iran, Fereydun, you don't want to see this. Okay. So war drums were strapped on the elephants' backs, and Shāh-nāmeh gave the order to mount and advance. Onward, my warriors! His eyes awash with tears, Qaboos accompanied them for the first day's journey. This is a custom, I'm going to do a little digression here, this is a custom that we've seen quite often in the Shāh-nāmeh, and it is a sign of respect. Normally, when someone is leaving or when someone is returning from a journey, the person that's staying, the person that's not embarking on the trip, usually they accompany the traveler, the person, a part of the journey as a significant, it's a sign more than anything. Yeah, it's like, how could he express this? It's not that you are sharing the whole trip with them, but you are doing so as a symbol of respect towards the, the calamities of the journey, the difficulties, because in that day and age, it was not that easy to go around. So you receive them as a sign of respect and saying you're welcome here, now you can rest, you're among friends. And when they leave, you accompany. I don't know if this was a custom that was, I'm pretty sure other cultures did so too. But this was very common, not only among the Iranians, but the Mongols did too. And generally, nomadic tribes, nomadic people, and cultures that revolve around horses and around traveling, accustomed to do that. They accustomed to do so as a sign of respect for the person that's leaving. And if on top of that we add the importance in the ancient world that that the messengers had, it's just that cherry on top. Hello, Aquila Inferna. I am quite good. Estoy muy bien. How are you? Thank you so much for popping by. This is lovely. Muchas gracias por pasarte. And if you don't know Aquila Inferna is an artist, and you should definitely check out their work because it is sweet as wine to the palatal. Where was I? Oh yeah, Qaboos accompanied them for the first day's journey. Finally, after father and son embrace, each weeping like a cloud in springtime, they felt within his heart that... Okay, sorry because I'm gonna be gloomy. When father and son hugged to say goodbye, they felt within their hearts that they would not see each other again. This is an omen, they feel. Qaboos turned back to his court and Siavash led his warlike army on towards Zabolistan, where Zal, Rustam's father, awaited them. We're gonna see Zal again. Another one that has all my heart to him. Of course. There, a month passed with wine and music. Siavash spent his time with Rustam, or with Rustam's brother, Zabore, which we met a couple of sessions ago, or seated cheerfully with Zal, hunting wild game through the reed beds. So, you know, he's enjoying himself a little bit, but after a month, Siavash and Rustam led the army forward, leaving Zal and his hospitality behind. Men flocked to their banner from India and Kabul, and as they neared Herat, troops poured in from every side. I'm really sorry for the honking, but someone's honking aggressively outside, and I have a window open because if not, I would melt. Hopefully they can't resolve the matter quickly. I don't know. The heavens still smiled on them as they approached Talqun and Mavrud, which are areas of we are moving towards the east, meaning that we are now properly in Central Asia. We're not, because they mentioned Herat. Herat is in modern day, well, actually, it's the Central Asia. Yeah, Herat is in modern day. Salam, Roman. Oh, hola, Pedro. Oh, how are you? So many lovely people in here. So as I was saying, Herat is in modern day Afghanistan. So you can see how much towards the east, how much eastward we moved, because this is taking place in the border of the two kingdoms that currently at this point in the reading is in Central Asia. So they went forward toward Balkh, injuring no one, not so much as by an unkind word. So now Balkh, if you don't know, it's a city of great importance for the history of Iran generally, and it's also in Afghanistan. It's quite central. It would be, if only I could show you, but I should start doing things with maps. So it's towards the north of the Afghan border. So yeah, it's very close to the border with Uzbekistan. So yet again, Central Asia. On the enemy's side, swift as the wind, Garzibaz and Borman led their army forward. Do you remember Garzibaz? Garzibaz was the father of... Okay, so Garzibaz is the grandfather of Siavash. So do you remember we found in the episode where Siavash was born, Tuz and Giv found this woman that was lost, and this woman was the daughter of Garzibaz, who was descendant of Feridun, and you know, so this person is alive. He's still commanding the army, and they heard that the new prince, mighty as an elephant, was leading an army forth from Iran. Quick as a skiff that cleaves the waves, they dispatched a messenger to Afraziab telling him of Siavash and his great army, and that warriors like Rostam, Death's harbinger, accompanied him. Because, you know, Turanians have a history with Rostam. They know, they have the pleasure of getting a taste of what fighting against Rostam is. They pleaded with him to come at once with fresh troops, for the wind was in the sails of the Ventura and the ship plunged forward. But Siavash confronted them before any answer could arrive, and Garzibaz, hemmed in by Iran's troops, had no choice but to give battle. He decided to make a stand before the gates of Balkh. Two great battles were fought on separate days, and then Siavash staged a successful infantry attack against the city's gates. As the Iranians poured into the city, Sepahram led the Turanian retreat back across the Oxus to Afraziab. So the Turanians are retreating because they're losing. They haven't had the reinforcements yet. I thought this was not going to be a turbulent reading, yet we are. Here we are again at war. How long has it been since we started this war? My God, it's been so long now. So as soon as Siavash and his army had entered Balkh, he ordered that a fitting letter inscribed on silk with ink compounded of musk, spices, and rosewater be written to the king. He began by thanking God, from whom all victories proceed, who rules the sun and the revolving moon, who exalts kings' crowns and thrones, who raises to glory and strikes down in sorrow whomsoever he wishes, and whose ways are beyond all human why or wherefore. Having invoked God's blessings on his father, Shāh-nāmeh continued, by the grace and far of the world's king, I came to Balkh in high spirits and favored by fortune. We fought for 3 days, and on the 4th, victory was ours. Sepahram has retreated to Termez, and Barman fled like an arrow shot from a bow. My troops occupy the countryside as far as the Oxus River, and the world submits to my glory. Now, if the king so orders me, I shall lead our army further and continue the war. Okay, step by step. First, I love Shāh-nāmeh. We do love Shāh-nāmeh because even in this situation, he's not... Oh my god. He's not arrogant with his victory. It's like, yes, I done this. The world is submitted. Like, yeah, I have subjugated the world to me. Yet, if you wish to tell me to stop, I will obey straightforwardly, no questions asked. If you order me to continue, I shall. So he's not boasting his triumphs. He's just showing his father what he is capable of doing, because he is a humble man and we love him so much. That's one. Then he's mentioned the far, and he says, by the grace and far of the world's king. So Shāh-nāmeh has the far with him. Not so much Kai Kavuz. Because after everything he's done, the far is, you know, flickering a bit on this person because he's not a worthy bearer of the far. He's done literally nothing to deserve it. But Shāh-nāmeh definitely has the far, and so does Rostam. So yeah, when this letter reached the Iranian king, he felt that his crown and throne had been elevated to the heavens. He's so happy. And he prayed to God that this young sapling of his should grow and bear ripe fruit. In his happiness, he had an answer written as splendid as spring, as cheerful as paradise. I pray to God, who rules the sun and moon and maintains the world, that he keep your heart happy and free from sorrow and disaster. It just for that means getting him away from you, Kai Kavuz, but you know. And that victory, glory, and the crown accompany you forever. Impatient for battles of your own, armed with fortune, skill, and righteousness, you led of your army, although your lips still smelled of mother's milk. May your body ever keep its skill and your heart always attain to its desires. But now that you have the upper hand, you should hold back somewhat. Make good use of the time you've gained. See that the army doesn't scatter. Fortify your camp. I think this is the first good advice that Kai Kavuz gives to his son in like forever. Anyway, this Turanian you're dealing with is sly and base, malevolent, of an evil race. He is powerful, imagining that soon he will lift his head above the shining moon. Be in no hurry now for war. Hold back. Let Afraziab advance. Let him attack. And when once he's crossed the Oxus, he will see carnage destroy his dreams of victory. So in a very sensible way, Kai Kavuz tells Command Shāh-nāmeh to wait, to fortify his position and wait. And he said he sealed to the letter and called for a messenger, ordering him to make all haste to Shāh-nāmeh. And when the young prince saw his father's missive, he kissed the ground and banished all thoughts of sorrow from his heart. He laughed and touched... This is something cute. I like this detail. He laughed and touched the letter to his head as a gesture to, you know, as a symbol of love. I think it's so beautiful. He's so, I don't know, it's so cute. He's such a cute person. And Shāh-nāmeh took note of its contents, and in his heart felt only loyalty to its commands. So, good job, Shāh-nāmeh. But I feel so guilty every time I pronounce that word. But, for his part, the lion warrior Garzibaz fled like wind-blown dust to the king of Turan, where bitterly and plainly he told him how Siavash, aided by Rostam and an infinite army of famous fighters, had attacked Balkh. Garzibaz said, to each one of us there were 50 of them, which I'm really sorry, that's not true, because there were 100,000 of the Iranians and only 20,000, 100,000 of the Turanians and only 20,000 of the Iranians. Well, you know what? Again, numbers. Since when have they mattered? Not even for those days keeping track of the armies he himself has created. And I think that's beautiful. So to each one of us, there were 50 of them, armed with ox-headed maces, and the bowmen surged forward like a fire. The eagle does not fly as they flew. For 3 days and nights they fought, until our leaders and horses were exhausted. But when one of their side grew tired, he retired from the battle and rested, then returned with renewed vigor. So, I call Afrasiab a psychopath because I believe he is. As you can imagine, thus, he's not gonna take this very well. Exactly. Afrasiab leapt up like flame and screamed to Garzibaz, "What is all this babble about sleep, about rest?" He glared at him as he would hack him in two, then yelled in fury and drove him from his presence. He gave orders that 1,000 of his henchmen be summoned for festivities, and that the plains of Sogdia shine with Chinese splendor. Now, what is this? What is this Chinese splendor, and what is the poem referring to? So, as we were saying, we are located, like the battle is taking place somewhere in the eastern parts of Central Asia, like in the middle part of Central Asia. However, the Turanians, by right, when the land was divided between Tus, Salm, and Iraj, Tus, Salm, and Iraj, Salm go China, because according to the Shāh-nāmeh's world perspective, the Chinese provinces belong to the King of Kings, and they chose to give that to the firstborn of Feridun. That's the reason he's in Chinese splendor. And in the perspective of the Iranians, in the Persianate perspective, these the Chinese culture, not just the Chinese, but the East Asian culture, has these connotations of exotism, of luxury, of shining splendor, meaning that they saw with very fascinated eyes the courts that were based in the East Asian borders and the East Asian territories. What they mean is just they're throwing a massive party with all they go in full on it, because they're celebrating in hopes to lift the spirits and march to battle with their morale. The ceiling can't hold it. However, although Afrasiab passed the day in pleasure, as the sun sank from sight, he hurried to his bed and tossed and turned there in the bedclothes. When one watch of the night had passed, he trembled and cried out in his sleep, like a man delirious with fever. His servants ran to him in an uproar, and when Garzibaz heard that the light of the throne was dimmed, he hurried to the king's bedchamber and saw him lying there, sprawled in the dirt. He took him in his arms and said, "Your Majesty, come, tell your brother what has happened." So, this is something that we haven't seen for a while. Afrasiab has had an omen sight. He has had a dream, the seer's dream. Sort of a prophecy, but not so much. He's seen something in his dreams. He answered, "Don't ask me. Don't say anything to me now. Hold me tightly in your arms for a moment and let me gather my wits." And after a while he came back to himself and saw his chamber filled with lamenting retainers. Torches were brought, and shaking like a wind-blown tree, he was helped to his bed. Again, Garzibaz questioned him. "Open your lips. Tell us this wonder." The great Afrasiab answered him thus. "May no one ever see such a dream again. I have never heard that any man, young or old, has passed such a night. In my dream, I saw a plain filled with snakes. The world was choked with dust, and eagles thronged the sky. The ground was dry and parched, as though the heavens had never blessed it with rain. My pavilion was pitched to one side, and our warriors stood around it. A dust storm sprang up and toppled my banner, and then on every side streams of blood began to flow. They swept away my tent, and my army that numbered over 1,000 was mere looped heads and sprawled bodies. Like a mighty wind, an army attacks from Iran. What lances they brandish, what bows! Every horseman had a head spitted on his lance, and another head at his saddle. Clothed in black, their lances coach, 100,000 of them charged my throne. They flung me from my seat and bound my arms behind me. I stared desperately around, but saw no one of my own people there. A haughty warrior dragged me before Kavus, and there on a shining throne sat a young man of no more than 14. When he saw me bound before him, he roared like a thundercloud and hacked me in two with his sword. I screamed with the pain, and my screams awoke me. In all fairness, this is a terrifying dream that he's having. Like, you know, I wouldn't want to be him for sure. And yeah, everything has a symbol. Everything is, you know, symbolic. And of course, everyone knows, because here in the Shāh-nāmeh, the culture of messages being delivered through dreams is very, very well known. Garzibaz said, "The king's dream can only mean what his friends would want for him. You will attain to your heart's desire, and those who wish you ill will be destroyed. We need a wise, experienced dream interpreter. We should call our priests and astrologers to the court." Wondering why they had been summoned, a group appeared at court. Afrasiab had them enter, seated the most distinguished in the front, and chat a little with each man. Then he said, "My wise, pure-hearted counselors, if I hear a word about this dream of mine from anyone in the world, I shall not leave a single head here on its body." Because, you know, Afrasiab's still Afrasiab. However, nevertheless, to allay their fears, he distributed a great deal of gold and silver among them and described his dream to them. When the chief priest had heard the dream, he was afraid and asked pardon of the king. This is how terrified these people are of Afrasiab. He's asking permission to speak the truth, saying, Who among us could interpret this dream unless the king promises to deal justly with us when we give him our opinion? Like, please don't shoot the messenger. The king promised they would come to no harm, and an eloquent spokesman for the group began. "I will reveal the inner meaning of the king's dream. A young prince, accompanied by experienced counselors, will lead a mighty and vigilant army here from Iran. The boy's father has had his horoscope cast, and it predicts that our country, Turan, will be destroyed. If the king fights with Sayavash, the face of the world would turn crimson as brocade with the blood that's shed. The Iranians will not leave one Turanian alive, and the king will regret giving battle. And if the young prince should be killed by the king, Turan will be left with no king to lead it. This land will be convulsed by a war of vengeance for Shāh-nāmeh. Then you will recall these truths when our land is ruined and depopulated. And even if the king became a bird, he could not outsoar the turning heavens that look on us at times with fury, at times with favor. So we're all screwed. No matter what we decide to do, Afrasiabe is, you know, he's between a rock and a hard place, isn't he? So when he heard this, Afrasiab was alarmed and put all thought of war from his head. He told Garzivaz at length of the destruction that had been prophesied if he fought with Shāh-nāmeh. He concluded, instead of looking for world's dominion, I have no choice but to sue for peace. I will send him gold, silver, crowns, thrones, and countless jewels, and I will withdraw from the territories they ceded before. Then perhaps this disaster can be averted and my tears will damp this fire down. If I can seal fate's eyes with gold, then the heavens may look favorably on me again. But we can only read what fate has written. Justice is whatever the heavens will for us. So basically, Shāh-nāmeh is the key to the destruction of Turan. Come with me. Be it that he perishes in battle, then Turan will be destroyed because Iran will claim vengeance. Or if the king fights Shāh-nāmeh, he is too good of a warrior, he's too mighty, he's too powerful for Afrasiab to overcome him. Then Turan will be conquered. What could we do? So what Afrasiab is trying to do is paying. Is paying in order to achieve peace and to survive to live. To survive to live. I am such an eloquent speaker, am I not? And survive to see another day. At sunrise, the country's nobles came to court wearing their diadems of office and with loyalty in their hearts. Having gathered together his wisest and most experienced men, Afrasiab addressed them. In all my life, he says, fate has given me no more than battles, conflict, and unending war. How many from this noble company have been destroyed in war because of me? How many gardens are now overgrown? How many cities are sacked and overthrown? How many orchards fought through? Far and wide my troops have scattered and scoured the countryside. And when the king's unjust, goodness must flee. Hiding itself in stealth and secrecy, the wild ass suffers an untimely birth, and rivers fail and dry throughout the earth. The hog squaws grow up blind, beast teeth turn dry, the musk deer makes no musk to know him by. Righteousness flees from crookedness in fear, on all sides dread and misery appear. But tired now of the evil ways I trod, I long to trace the virtuous path of God. In place of sorrow, pain, and enmity, I will now nourish knowledge, justice, amity. Through me, the world will be at rest. No more with death surprises and untimely war. Iran and Turan are mine by right. How many kings pay tribute to my might? If you agree hostilities should cease, I will write to Rostam now, proposing peace to Shāh-nāmeh, and I will send rich tokens of my hopes for harmony and mutual love. So basically, what Afrasiab is doing here is sort of, you know, being accountable for whatever he's done. Because of his desire of war, the land of Turan has suffered greatly. And yeah, he's just you know, being fair and saying that, yes, some things might be his fault. And he's expressing his desires to not be at war anymore. He wants to be at peace with Iran. And one by one, his counselors agreed to peace and reconciliation because they cannot take war anymore. Seeing that he was their king and they his slaves. They submit to their will. When they had left, Afrasiab turned to Garzivaz and said, make ready for the road. Don't waste words. Choose 200 warriors and prepare gifts for Shāh-nāmeh. Arab horses with golden saddles, Indian swords with silver scabbards, a gem-encrusted crown, 100 camel loads of carpets, 200 slave girls, and as many boys. Tell him we have no quarrel with him, that we make no claim on Iran. Say we accept that Sogdia, the land as far as the Oxus, is ours. Thus it has been since the time of Salm and Tur, when all the world was turned upside down and the innocent Iraj was slain. I mean, glass of tea in the chat for Iraj, kit number 3, a favorite of many, and still one of the saddest deaths. One of the saddest deaths in the Shāh-nāmeh. That one is heartbreaking. To you, Iraj, always and forever. So yeah, Afrasiab continues, expressing his desire. I pray that God will grant us peace and happiness, that your good fortune will bring peace to the world, and that war and evil will disappear. You are a king yourself. Speak to the king of Iran. See if you can soften his warlike ways. Flatter Rostam, take him slaves and horses with golden bridles, load him with gifts so that our plan is successful. But as he is no king, don't present him with a golden throne. Because, yeah, I mean, that's right. Rostam is no king. When Garzibaz had gathered the gifts together, they made a splendid show. He hurried to the Oxus and sent a nobleman ahead to Balkh to announce his coming. As soon as Shāh-nāmeh heard of Garzibaz's approach, he consulted with Rostam as to what should be done. Garzibaz arrived and Shāh-nāmeh commanded that he be admitted to the court. Seeing him, he stood, smiled, and asked for his pardon. Garzibaz paused at distance and kissed the ground. Shame was apparent in his face, and his heart was filled with fear. I mean, he's standing in front of the most powerful warrior in Iran, that being Rostam, and Shāh-nāmeh, you know, he's close to that, so... Shāh-nāmeh motioned him to a place near the throne and asked after Afrasiab. Garzibaz sat and took stock of the prince's splendor and then addressed Rostam. When Afrasiab heard of your coming, he sent me here with a trifling present for Shāh-nāmeh. He signaled that the gifts be paraded before Shāh-nāmeh. The road from the city gates to the court was thronged with the slaves and valuables he'd brought, and no one could reckon their value. Shāh-nāmeh was well pleased with what he saw, and he listened to Afrasiab's proposals. The wary Garzibaz kissed the ground, made his obeisance, and left the court. Rostam said, we should entertain him for a week before we give an answer. We must think carefully and consult with others. A house then was fitted for Garzibaz and stewards sent to look after him, while Shāh-nāmeh and Rostam turned the proposal over at length. They take their time because this is something historical, but for the very first time, before the division between Iran and Turan, the king of Turan is asking for peace in a very serious manner. This is a definite one. This is going to mean the end of all hostilities. So it's not to be taken lightly. Rostam was suspicious of the speed with which Garzibaz had come, and as was prudent, had scouts posted to keep an eye on the approaches. Shāh-nāmeh questioned him, then said, we have to get to the bottom of why they are seeking peace. What is the best antidote for a poison like him? Because yes, you are correct, my dear. Afrasiab is indeed poison. Who are his closest kin? If he were to send 100 of his warrior relatives here as hostage, that would show us his real objectives. God forbid he's holding back simply out of fear, and that under this show of good intention he is actually beating his war drums. Once we have arranged all this, we should send someone to my father Kaikabuz to persuade him to give up his dream of vengeance. Rostam agreed. You are right, he said. This is the only way to conclude the treaty. At dawn the next day, Garzibaz appeared at court, belted and crowned as was appropriate. He kissed the ground before Siavash and greeted the prince. Siavash said, I have been weighing your words and deeds carefully. The two of us, him and Rostam, agree that we should wash all thoughts of vengeance from our hearts. He is too pure for this world. Take this answer to Afrasiab. If you're plotting an attack on us, know that he who sees the end of evil should refrain from evil, and that a heart adorned with wisdom is a priceless treasure. Beautiful verse, this one. If there is no poison hiding in this draught you offer, if malevolence has no place in your heart, then let Rostam choose 100 of your kin, whose names will be given to you. You will send these men to me as guarantors of your good faith. Further, you will evacuate those Iranian towns you occupy, withdraw to Turan, and cease to plan for war. There should be only righteousness between us. I, for my part, will not prepare for war, and I shall send a letter to Kai Kavus advising him to recall our armies. That is the message, and Garzibaz dispatched a horseman saying, Gallop to Afrasiab, and don't pause for sleep on the way. Tell him that I have accomplished all he wished for, but that Siavash demands hostages before he will renounce this war. Pause for tea. When the message was delivered, Afrasiab writhed inwardly, uncertain what he should do. He communed with himself. If I am to be deprived of 100 of my own kindred, my court's power will be broken. There will be no one left here who has my well-being at heart. But if I refuse him these hostages, he will think all I have said is a lie. I shall have to send them if he won't agree to any other terms. He counted off 100 of his king's men, according to the list drawn up by Rostam, presented them with gifts and robes of state, and sent them over to the Iranian prince. Apparently Afrasiab is, serious with this one. Then he gave orders that the drums and trumpets be sounded. The royal pavilion was dismantled, and his army evacuated Bukhara, Sogd, Samarkand, Shāh, and Punjab, moving toward Gang without excuses, without delay. He is doing as he was instructed by Siavash. When Rostam learned of their withdrawal, he ceased to worry. He hurried to Siavash, told him what he heard, and said, You know what? Since things have turned out well, Garzibaz should be allowed to return. To Turan, that is. Orders were given that a robe of honor be prepared and that weapons, a crown, a belt, together with an Arab horse with a golden bridle and an Indian sword, be brought. When Garzibaz saw the prince's gifts, he seemed as astonished as a man might be who saw the moon descend to the earth. He left full of praises for the prince, and his feet seemed to skim on the ground in gratitude. However, Siavash sat on his ivory throne, the crown suspended above him. He searched his mind for someone eloquent. Who is going to talk to Kai Kavus is the question, because now the Turanians, they've done their part. Half of the agreement has been completed by them. And now the Iranians must do the same. And this means someone has to go back to Iran and talk to Kai Kavus. If we know something about Kai Kavus, is that he's not a tranquil man to talk to. So Siavash, knowing his father, he's in a very bit of a worrying patch because, he's just thinking, oh, wow, who am I sending to talk to dad and say, hey, father, you know what? Do you know this ancestry war that you've been fighting all your life, that you've committed and devoted your entire life perspective to, this inherited conflict that we've been, knitting tightly in our own self-defining narrative. Like, this is the thing we do, we fight the Turanians. How about we don't? How about we stop? How about we wash all these feelings away? What if we refuse and we refuse to these thoughts and we just reject these feelings from ourselves and just sign peace and live happily ever after? Hey Dad, how does that sound? Whew, I wouldn't like to be in Seava's search now. Siavash needed some nobleman from the army who would get on well with Kaikavuz. And being the father figure he truly is to the little prince, Rostam steps forward. And he says, "Who is going to dare open his mouth about such a subject? Qaboos is as he always was. His anger is always there, neither less nor more. All I can suggest is that I go to him. I'd split the earth open if you ordered me to." That is so beautiful. And I think only good can come of my mission. Do you see how much daddy energy, powerful energy Rostam is giving right now? He's offering to take the bullets for Siavash because he has his share of experiences with Kaikavuz. He knows perfectly the King of Kings and he doesn't want the kid to do this by himself. So he volunteers. He offers as tribute. He willingly will split the earth open if Siavash ordered him to, which is gorgeous, and I love them and I love Siavash. So of course Siavash was overjoyed at his words and gave up all thoughts of looking for another messenger. Thus, adopted father and son, quote-unquote father, and Rostam and Siavash sit down together to try to come up with the best strategy to write a letter to Kaikavuz. And here, Bachar, is where we are going to stop. Thank you so much for staying here with me for this session. I thought, in all honesty, I thought this was going to be a much more relaxed reading than I remembered. We are reading the Book of Kings. There is no such thing of relax in here, although we have, we could be hiding something. We could be heading to the end of the war. We could be heading to the very first real deal peace treaties. And cheers to you, Roma, of course. Pew! So we could be, heading to a new era in the Shāh-nāmeh. So Umberto can't wait to see how the prophecies work out, and hey, maybe peace for the first time in an eternity. You know what? I won't say a word. Just be reminded, this is the Book of Kings. Peace was never an option. Anywho, the other day, one of you, which I was kind of complaining that Kaikavuz was still alive, and they were really asking when this person was going to die, because they felt that he's been around for an eternity. You know what? I know. He's just. How do you have a saying in this in English? Like, we say, like, the bad herbs will never die. Is that? Yeah, the bad weed never dies. So I'm really sorry. He's gonna be with us a wee bit more, just a wee bit. But thank you so much, Shāh, as always, for coming to the live stream. Thank you so much for enjoying these readings. It has been my absolute pleasure sharing the Book of Kings with you. If in the meantime you would like to join our community, you can do so over Discord. You can join our Telegram channel. And thank you once more, yet once again, and never enough, to my patrons, my gorgeous, beautiful Shāh that support me on Patreon, so this project can carry on and continue as it is. I am beyond excited to continue reading. However, I will be taking my summer break, and I think I shall be back in September, but keep an eye open on socials to see when I am going to do so. In the meantime, you can enjoy all the content up on Twitch, YouTube. The readings of the Shāh-nāmeh are also up on Spotify and iVoox. So yeah, you know how to entertain. You have enough to entertain yourselves if you are not content already with more Iranian stuff. Thank you so much for your company, and as always, remember to create, to explore, and to have lots of fun. Until we see each other again, I bid you Khodafis!